In tonight's Business Insider, the transition to EMV cards. October 1st marked the deadline for banks and retailers to adopt new microchip cards. They're considered the gold standard of payment systems to protect consumers against fraud. But now some lawmakers are questioning the big change. Joining me with more is Kyle Plantz, reporter for The Hill. All right, Kyle, a majority of U.S. consumers have already received these EMV cards in the mail. And while they may be new here, Europe has been using this technology for years. Now, what protections do these microchips provide and how do they work?
So basically, these microchip cards look just like your regular credit cards, but the technology that's inside of them is very different. And so when you go to make a transaction, you'll actually insert your credit card into this chip-enabled terminal. And essentially, then you'll have to do your PIN code or a signature verification, which is something we're all used to. But the way that the technology works inside of it is that it creates a unique transaction code for every single purchase that you make, which is very different from your magnetic swipe cards that we're used to. Exactly. And so that is the sense that it's very safe and hackers are not going to be able to do it. And so if you lose your credit card at any point, or if a hacker tries to create your credit card again, they will have the original transaction code that was on your credit card when you got it, and that will immediately send red flags to your bank or financial institution.
All right, so we saw the swiping. That's what it is, rather than the swiping. So I understand the difference now. Mm-hmm. October 1st was the deadline for U.S. retailers and financial institutions to get on board with the new EMV cards. What's changed for those businesses that are not chip ready?
And this October 1st deadline was really a liability shift. And so really it was placing the financial burden from the financial institutions to the businesses and retailers. So if someone created your credit card again and then used it for a transaction, normally the financial institution would pay you back for the fraudulent activity. However, now if the business or retailer is not chip enabled or does not have the technology yet, they will actually have to pay the charge. So that's kind of what this shift is talking about here, and that's something that the businesses and retailers are really looking out for.
Now, the chairman of the House Small Business Committee said all of this came from the private sector and not government regulation. So who decided it was time for the change?
This was really a drive led by the financial institutions themselves. The credit cards, or the chip cards, are also known as EMV cards. So EuroPay, MasterCard, Visa. And so they were the ones that kind of helped create this technology. So they've been really pushing this for years. But then also the retailers have been wanting this too, because as I said, they're safer and hackers can't really get into them. And we've seen this before after several breaches in recent years with Target and Home Depot that got millions of consumers information, and so that's
millions and millions. That was major news. So that kind of was the impetus for this. But still, this House committee is questioning the transition, saying it could hurt small business. Is that true, and do they have plans to prolong this transition?
Definitely don't have plans to prolong the transition. They really just want to be a kind of a guidance throughout this, working with all entities involved of the financial institutions, the retailers and businesses, and the consumers as well. And so really one of the major problems that they saw was just the education of it. And so this starts a whole debate of whether or not we were ready for this technology now. And so Visa said that they made this announcement in 2011 that they were switching, and then but several businesses and retailers said that they didn't hear about this change until 18 months ago. So Congress is just looking to help guide this process and make it an easy transition for all.
Kyle, a recent survey showed a little more than 50% of payment terminals in the U.S. are chip ready, compared to 95% in Europe. How long would it take for U.S. retailers to get on board with this new system, and what if it's already obsolete by then?
So Visa really expects a significant reduction in counterfeit fraud once these chip-enabled cards are in business, and they actually say that between 60 to 70% of retailers, once they have these chip-enabled terminals, that's when we'll start to kind of see some progress, and they believe that'll take about 2 years or so. So definitely won't see results right away. This is, as I said, a transition as we go forward. And that is, as you mentioned, Morris, a concern for retailers, that what if this technology becomes out of date? And that is something that they're working on, but they believe that this will be the norm for a while.
It's all important news you can use on Capital Insider. Kyle Plantz, reporter for The Hill. Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you very much.